Commander Jack Winters stood at the edge of the crater, squinting against the harsh Nevada sun. The desert sand had turned to glass where the alien craft had landed, still smoking and crackling with strange energy. Behind him, a line of military vehicles stretched back toward the horizon, lights flashing in the morning heat. "Secure the perimeter," he ordered, watching as his team moved into position. "No one gets close until we assess the situation." The crash had occurred just after midnight. Radar stations across the western states had tracked the object as it tumbled through the atmosphere, its trajectory clearly not that of a meteor or satellite. Whatever this was, it had been under power until the final moments. Jack adjusted his protective suit and gestured to the hazard team. "Let's move in. Radiation and atmospheric readings first." Dr. Olivia Grant approached, carrying her specialized equipment. Her face was serious behind her visor. "The energy signature doesn't match anything in our database," she said, "but the air around the craft seems breathable." The vessel itself was unlike anything human engineers had designed. Approximately 30 meters long, with a sleek, almost organic shape, its surface shifted colors like oil on water. Parts of the hull had ruptured, revealing complex machinery within. "Movement," called one of the soldiers. "There's something alive in there." Jack's hand moved to his sidearm out of instinct, but he kept it holstered. "Approach with caution. This may be our first contact." The team edged forward, equipment ready. As they reached the torn hull, a sound emanated from within, a rhythmic clicking that seemed to form patterns. Jack felt the hair on his arms stand up despite the heat. "That's communication," Olivia whispered. "It's trying to talk to us." Inside the damaged craft, they found the pilot. The alien was humanoid, but clearly not human. Taller, with grayish-blue skin that seemed almost translucent. 4 eyes arranged in a diamond pattern tracked their movement. One of its 3-fingered hands clutched a wound in its chest, while the other reached toward the humans. "We need a medical team," Jack ordered, but Olivia shook her head. "I don't think we can help," she said quietly. "Look at the physiology. We wouldn't know where to begin." The alien's clicking grew more urgent. From a device on its wrist, holographic images projected into the air between them. Star maps, planets, and scenes of destruction. Jack watched in stunned silence as entire worlds seemed to burn. "It's warning us about something," Olivia said, her scientific detachment giving way to alarm. The dying alien touched controls on its suit, and the ship's computers activated. Screens lit up around them, displaying data in an unknown language. But the images were clear enough. Massive ships descending on populated planets, harvesting resources and life forms systematically. "The collectors," the alien managed to say in heavily accented English, surprising everyone present. "They come. Always come. Harvest life. Harvest worlds." Jack knelt beside the alien. "When? How much time do we have?" The alien's 4 eyes blinked in sequence. "Detected your signals. Will come. Prepare. Fight." Its breathing became labored. "My people failed. You must not." With a final, shuddering breath, the alien died. In death, its skin became completely transparent, then began to crystallize. Within hours, the crash site was a hive of activity. The world's top scientists and military leaders were flown in. The ship was transported to a secure facility for study. Dr. Grant led the team analyzing the alien's technology and data. 1 week later, she presented her findings to an emergency global security council. The ship's star charts confirmed the alien's warning. She told the grim-faced leaders, "We've identified hundreds of star systems where civilizations appear to have been systematically wiped out. The technology in this ship is centuries beyond our capabilities, yet the alien described its people as having failed against these collectors." Jack Winters stood at the back of the room, listening. The world had changed forever in that desert. Humanity was not alone in the universe, and it was in danger. "How do we prepare for something like this?" asked one of the politicians. Together, Jack said simply. For the first time in our history, we have to stand together. Captain Laura Nichols sat in the command chair of the Defender, watching the holographic display of the solar system. 50 years had passed since the crashed alien ship changed humanity's path forever. The warning had united Earth in ways no one thought possible. Nations pooled resources, scientists shared discoveries, and a global defense force was established. Yet in all those years, the collectors never came. Another quiet patrol, Laura said, tapping her fingers on the armrest. The Defender was Earth's most advanced warship, built with technology reverse-engineered from the Vordari scout ship. Similar vessels patrolled the solar system's edge, constantly watching for any sign of the promised invasion. Dr. Alan Peterson looked up from his science station. Some people back home think it was all a hoax, that we've been preparing for nothing. Laura shook her head. The star charts don't lie. Something wiped out those civilizations. The United Space Defense Command maintained constant vigilance despite growing public skepticism. Training exercises, weapon development, and defense systems consumed much of Earth's resources. Children grew up learning combat skills alongside mathematics and science. "Captain," Alan called suddenly, his voice sharp with concern. "I'm detecting unusual energy patterns at the edge of the system." Laura straightened in her chair. "Define unusual." "Similar to the readings from the Vordari ship, but magnified thousands of times." His fingers flew across the control panel. "Multiple points forming. They're consistent with theoretical models of hyperspace windows." "Battle stations," Laura ordered. Throughout the ship, alarm lights flashed as crew members rushed to their positions. "Alert USDC headquarters. Send all sensor data." The ship's communications officer nodded. "Transmitting now. All defense platforms are going to full alert." On the main screen, space itself seemed to ripple and tear. Massive holes opened in the fabric of reality, and through them came ships, hundreds of them. They were crystalline structures, catching and refracting the distant sunlight in beautiful but terrifying patterns. "The collectors," Laura whispered. After 50 years of waiting, the threat had finally arrived. "They're not responding to any communication attempts," reported the communications officer. Laura gripped her chair arms. "Deploy defense fleet. Formation Alpha 6. All weapons ready." Earth's defense fleet moved into position. 30 ships forming a protective barrier between the collectors and their home planet. Yet compared to the alien armada, they looked pitifully small. The first attack came without warning. Beams of energy lanced out from the crystal ships, tearing through 2 of Earth's vessels before they could raise shields. "Return fire," Laura ordered. The Defender's weapons discharged, hitting one of the collector ships directly. The energy seemed to be absorbed into the crystalline structure with minimal damage. "Our weapons are barely affecting them," Alan reported, voice steady despite the crisis. "They're using technology we haven't seen before." More Earth ships fell as the battle continued. The Defenders fought bravely, but were clearly outmatched. Laura watched in horror as the collector fleet began to split, a portion continuing toward Earth, while others engaged the defense force. "We need to find a weakness," Laura said. "Alan, what can you tell me about their ships?" The science officer studied his readings intensely. "The crystalline structure seems to channel energy. That's why our weapons aren't effective. But..." He paused, eyes widening. "There's a fluctuation when they fire. The crystals vibrate at a specific frequency." Laura leaned forward. "Could we disrupt that frequency?" "Possibly. If we modify our electromagnetic pulse generators to match the inverse of that frequency, we might be able to shatter their structure." It was a desperate idea, but they had nothing else. "Do it. Transmit the modifications to all remaining ships." As Alan worked frantically to adjust the weapons systems, Laura opened a channel to the fleet. "All ships, prepare to implement new attack protocol on my mark." The Defender shuddered as it took another hit. Systems failed across the ship, and emergency lights flickered. They wouldn't survive much longer. "Modifications complete." Ellen announced. Fire. The modified pulse shot toward the nearest collector ship. For a moment, nothing happened. Then cracks appeared in its crystalline surface, spreading rapidly until the entire structure shattered like glass. Hope flickered in Laura's eyes. Transmit the frequency to Earth. We've found a weakness. Lieutenant Ryan Murphy crouched behind the rusted remains of a Martian mining facility, watching the collector patrol through his scope. 10 years had passed since they arrived in the solar system. Earth had fallen within months, despite the brave defense and the discovery of the crystalline ship's weakness to modified electromagnetic pulses. The technology had come too late to save humanity's homeworld. They're moving toward Checkpoint 6, he whispered to his team. 4 centuries, standard pattern. The red dust of Mars swirled around them, providing some cover from collector sensors. Ryan's resistance team consisted of just 8 people, all that remained of the colony's military presence. Their faces were gaunt and weathered, marked by years of guerrilla warfare. Ready the EMP grenade, Ryan instructed. Susan White, their communications specialist, nodded and prepared the device. The collectors had established massive harvesting facilities across Mars, stripping the planet of resources. At first, the Resistance believed they were only interested in minerals and metals. But 6 months ago, everything changed. Remember, we need one alive for questioning, Ryan said. Grab the smallest one if possible. His team moved into position, using the techniques perfected over years of fighting. The collectors were powerful but predictable. They never changed their patterns, never adapted their tactics. It was the only advantage humans had. Susan activated the EMP grenade, tossing it precisely between the 4 sentries. The pulse disrupted their crystalline armor, causing it to crack and fragment. Ryan's team rushed forward, firing specially modified weapons. 3 of the collectors shattered immediately. The 4th, smaller one, was stunned but intact. Secure it, Ryan ordered. Back to base before reinforcements arrive. They bound the collector with electromagnetic restraints and disappeared into the tunnels beneath the Martian surface. Their base was located in an abandoned research station, hidden from collector scans by natural iron deposits. Dr. Mitchell, their medical officer, waited for them. You got one, he said, eyes widening. Intact. Set up the containment field, Ryan replied. Susan, get the translator ready. No human had successfully communicated with a collector before. The creatures seemed to have no interest in dialogue, only harvesting. Their true appearance remained a mystery, as they were always encased in crystalline armor or vehicles. Susan connected their salvage translator to the containment field. Ready, Lieutenant. The captured collector began to move, its armor slowly repairing itself. Without the protective crystal completely surrounding it, they could see glimpses of the being inside, something pale and segmented, with multiple appendages. Why are you collecting human biological samples? Ryan demanded. The collector's movement stilled. A sound emerged, like grinding glass, which the translator processed. Specimens valuable, unique adaptation capabilities, resistance unexpected. Ryan exchanged glances with Susan. What do you mean by resistance unexpected? No species continues after primary harvest. Humans fight. Humans hide. Humans adapt. Anomaly. This confirmed what they had suspected. The collectors had never encountered a species that continued fighting after their homeworld fell. Most civilizations apparently surrendered completely once the initial invasion succeeded. Show me the collection facility data, Ryan demanded. Surprisingly, the collector responded, activating a holographic display from its partially damaged armor. The images showed thousands of stasis chambers containing humans and human tissue samples. Genetic material preserved. Adaptation capability studied. Susan's eyes widened as she studied the display. They're not just taking our resources, she whispered. They're studying why we keep fighting. Ryan felt a surge of grim satisfaction. The greatest predators in the galaxy were afraid of humanity's refusal to accept extinction. Later that night, After securing their prisoner, Ryan gathered his team. "We've confirmed what we suspected. The collectors don't understand us because they've never faced a species that fought back after defeat." He unfolded a rough map of the main collection facility. "We've been hitting small patrols, but it's time for something bigger, something they won't expect." Susan leaned forward. "What are you thinking?" "Operation Phoenix," Ryan said. "We're going to hit their main genetic laboratory. If they're so interested in human adaptability, let's show them exactly how adaptable we can be." The team looked at each other, determination replacing fatigue on their faces. 10 years of resistance had taught them one thing: humanity would not go quietly into extinction. Admiral Paul Carter stood on the observation deck of the flagship Nova, watching as the vast fleet moved through the darkness of space. 30 years had passed since the collectors first arrived in the solar system. Earth was now just a memory, a blue jewel left behind and occupied by the enemy. Humanity had become nomadic. The flotilla contained over 200 ships of various sizes, carrying nearly 15 million people, all that remained of Earth's population. They were constantly on the move, never staying in one system long enough for the collectors to find them. "Admiral, the jump calculations are complete," reported his executive officer. "The fleet is ready to move on your command." Paul nodded, his weathered face reflecting the starlight. At 63, he had spent most of his adult life running from the collectors while searching for advantages against them. "Tell Chief Engineer Wilson to initiate the jump sequence," he ordered. Kate Wilson was perhaps humanity's greatest asset in this long war. She had studied the collector technology salvaged from countless skirmishes and developed a revolutionary propulsion system that allowed human ships to travel faster and farther than ever before. As the fleet prepared to jump, Hall reviewed the latest intelligence reports. Collector activity had increased in the sector ahead, but they needed to pass through it to reach the resource-rich system beyond. "Admiral," Kate's voice came through the communication system. "I need to see you immediately. We've discovered something unusual." In the engine control room, Kate stood before a holographic display showing strange energy readings. Despite the years of hardship, her eyes still burned with the same intelligence and determination that had kept the fleet moving. "We detected this signal during our last jump," she explained. "It's artificial that doesn't match collector patterns. Someone else is out there." Paul studied the readings. "Another species. Most of the civilizations we encountered were already harvested. This is different. The signal was directed at us specifically, using frequencies that match our communication systems." "Could be a trap," Paul cautioned. Kate shook her head. "I don't think so. Look at the pattern. It's an invitation. Coordinates for a rendezvous point." After careful consideration, Paul decided to investigate. He selected 3 scout ships to accompany the Nova, while the rest of the fleet remained at a safe distance. They arrived at the coordinates, an asteroid field surrounding a dwarf star. At first, they detected nothing. Then, ships began to emerge from behind the larger asteroids. Their design was completely unfamiliar. "We're being hailed," reported the communications officer. "The translator is processing their language." A face appeared on the main screen, distinctly non-human with 4 eyes arranged in a diamond pattern. "Vordari," Paul whispered in shock. The species that had first warned humanity about the collectors, believed to be extinct. "Humans of Earth," the alien spoke through the translator. "We have watched your resistance with great interest. You were not defeated as others were." "We've been running for 30 years, Paul replied. "I wouldn't call that a victory. But you survive. Like us, like the Tellurians, like the others." The Vordari explained that they represented a hidden coalition of species who had each escaped the collector's harvesting. They had established a sanctuary in a remote region of space, concealed by complex technology from collector sensors. "We are not many," the Vordari admitted, "a few million from each world. But together, we preserve what the collectors sought to destroy." As the Nova followed the alien ships to their sanctuary, Dr. Ben Foster, the fleet's chief scientist, studied the data they shared about the collectors. "This is remarkable," he told Paul later. "According to these records, the collectors have existed for millions of years, harvesting developing civilizations throughout the galaxy. Why haven't they evolved better tactics?" Paul asked. "They still use the same approaches they used against Earth." Ben's eyes lit up with realization. "That's it, Admiral. They don't evolve their tactics because they've never needed to. No species has ever given them enough resistance to force adaptation." "Until humanity," Kate added. "Exactly," Ben said. "We're the first species to keep fighting after our homeworld fell. The first to adapt faster than they could. And now, with these other species." Paul looked out at the gathering of alien ships, each representing a civilization that refused extinction. "We could actually fight back," he said quietly. "Not just survive. Fight back." Major Sofia Rodriguez checked her weapon one last time as the assault shuttle approached the collector harvest facility. Through the viewport, she could see the massive crystalline structure orbiting what had once been a thriving world. Now it was just another lifeless husk in the collector's wake. 2 minutes to insertion," the pilot announced. "All teams report ready." After 5 years of preparation, the Allied fleet had launched their counterattack. 8 species united under a single banner, combining their unique technologies and tactics. The Vordari provided stealth systems, the Tellurians contributed their powerful energy weapons, and humans brought their unpredictable warfare techniques. "Remember," Sofia told her mixed-species team, "our objective is the central neural network. Everything else is secondary." The shuttle slipped through a gap in the facility's defenses, using technology developed by Kate Wilson to mask their approach. They landed in a maintenance bay that Intelligence Officer Daniel Black had identified as minimally guarded. "Move fast, stay quiet," Sofia ordered as the team deployed. Humans led the way, followed by their alien allies. Each species had been chosen for specific skills. Tellurians for their strength, Vordari for their technical abilities, and the insect-like Khazari for their ability to navigate narrow spaces. The interior of the harvest facility was unlike anything Sofia had seen before. Crystalline corridors pulsed with energy, and strange machinery processed materials extracted from countless worlds. Most disturbing were the preservation chambers containing specimens from harvested species, including humans. "They've been collecting DNA from across the galaxy," Daniel whispered, scanning the chambers with a portable device. "Not just resources, they're collecting life itself." The team moved deeper into the facility, encountering only minimal resistance. The collectors had never expected an attack on their central processing station. Their arrogance would be their downfall. "Junction ahead," reported a Vordari scout. "Heavy collector presence." Sofia signaled for the team to halt, then deployed the special weapons they had developed. Unlike traditional firearms, these were designed to exploit the collectors' unique weaknesses, frequencies that disrupted their crystalline biology and communication systems. "On my mark," she whispered. 3, 2, 1. The battle was brief but intense. The collectors fought with mechanical precision, but lacked the adaptability of the Allied forces. Sofia's team used constantly changing tactics, something the collectors couldn't predict. "Clear," Sofia announced as the last enemy fell. "Daniel, find us a way to the central core." Daniel accessed a terminal, his fingers flying across the alien interface. Years studying collector technology had made him one of the few humans who could navigate their systems. "I'm in," he said after a tense minute, "and I found something interesting about their evolutionary history." "Save it for the debrief," Sofia replied, keeping watch on the corridor. "Just get us to the core." "No, this is important," Daniel insisted. "The collectors were prey species once. Their crystalline structure evolved as protection. They became perfect predators because they were nearly wiped out themselves." Sofia considered this. "So they harvest other species out of fear, to prevent what happened to them." "Exactly. And they've been doing it for so long they've forgotten any other way to exist." The team pushed forward, fighting through increasingly difficult defenses as they approached the central neural network. Several team members fell to collector weapons, but the remainder pressed on with grim determination. Finally, they reached the core, a massive crystalline structure pulsing with energy and information. This was the heart of the facility, controlling all harvesting operations in this sector of the galaxy. "Plant the quantum destabilizers," Sophia ordered. "Set them for maximum effect." As her team worked, the facility's alarms finally activated. The collectors had realized the threat too late. Throughout the structure, confused collectors rushed to defend their core, but their predictable tactics made them easy targets for the Allied teams stationed at key junctions. "Destabilizers set," reported a Tellurian engineer. "We have 10 minutes to evacuate." As they retreated to their shuttle, the facility's communication system suddenly activated. A message began broadcasting on all frequencies, spreading across the galaxy. "Warning to all harvester fleets. Anomalous species has penetrated central processing. Extreme caution advised. Human unpredictability exceeds acceptable parameters." Sophia smiled grimly as they reached the shuttle. "They're afraid of us," she said. Ambassador Frank Miller stood at the large viewing window of the council chamber, watching ships arrive from across the galaxy. 100 years had passed since the decisive battle that ended the collector threat in this region of space. In that century, humanity had helped establish a new order, the Council of Free Species. "Quite a view, isn't it?" asked Dr. Helen Rivera, approaching from behind. Representatives from 27 species, all working together. Frank nodded, his eyes tracking a Vordari diplomatic vessel as it docked. "Sometimes I wonder what the first contact team would think if they could see us now." The council chamber was built in orbit around a neutral star system, symbolizing that no single species controlled the alliance. Humans had insisted on this arrangement, knowing that true cooperation required equality. "The restoration project for Earth enters its final phase next month," Helen told him, referring to the massive undertaking she had led for decades. As the coalition's leading scientist, she had developed technologies to repair worlds damaged by the collectors. "How long until it's fully habitable?" Frank asked. "Another 5 years. The atmospheric adjustments are taking hold, and the biosphere is responding well to the introduced species." She smiled. "Some of the original Earth life we preserved is already thriving in the test zones." Their conversation was interrupted by a chime indicating the council session was about to begin. Representatives from all member species gathered in the circular chamber, each seat positioned equally around the central platform. Frank took his place as Earth's ambassador. After decades of service, his hair had gone white, but his mind remained sharp. He had helped forge most of the treaties that now govern their alliance. The council leader, a Tellurian named Zurith, called the session to order. "We face a serious situation," he announced without preamble. "Our long-range scouts have detected signs of another harvester species beyond the edge of our galaxy." Murmurs spread through the chamber. Everyone remembered the devastation the collectors had caused. The thought of facing another such threat was deeply disturbing. "The evidence suggests they operate similarly to the collectors," Zurith continued, "but with different technology and methods. They appear to be systematically moving through the Andromeda galaxy, harvesting developing civilizations." Frank listened carefully, noting the fear in many representatives' voices as they debated responses. Some suggested hiding, others wanted to build massive defensive systems. The old patterns of thinking, the same ones that had failed against the collectors. He caught Helen's eye across the chamber. She had been reviewing the scout data and now stood to address the council. "Members of the council," she began, "I've analyzed the data thoroughly. This new threat won't reach our galaxy for at least 200 years. But there are dozens of developing civilizations in their path who have no defense against them." "What do you propose?" asked a Vordari representative. "The Vanguard Initiative," Helen replied, displaying a holographic model. "A proactive defense system. We identify developing civilizations, establish discrete outposts near them, and protect them from harvester species without interfering in their natural development. The council erupted in debate. Many representatives argued that their responsibility was to their own people, not to unknown species who might someday become threats themselves. Frank listened to the arguments, then slowly rose to speak. The chamber fell silent. Human representatives rarely addressed the full council, preferring to work through committees. "A century ago," he said, "humanity was facing extinction. We were saved because one Vordari scout chose to warn us, even though we were strangers." He looked around the chamber. "We all carry the memory of what it means to be hunted, to be harvested. Will we allow that to happen to others when we have the power to prevent it?" He walked to the center of the chamber. Humanity's history is filled with conflict. For thousands of years, we fought each other over resources, beliefs, and territory. Those same instincts that made us dangerous to ourselves made us the perfect defenders against the collectors. We understood warfare in ways they never could. Frank gestured to the stars visible through the chamber ceiling. "Let humanity serve as your vanguard. We will stand as guardians for developing worlds. We will be the shield that allows them to grow without fear." The chamber was silent as his words sank in. "It is precisely because of humanity's warlike past," Frank concluded softly, "that we are best suited to ensure peace for the future." Commander Natalie Wright stood on the bridge of the Sentinel, her eyes fixed on the massive observation screen. 300 years had passed since humanity first learned of the collectors. In that time, her species had transformed from frightened prey to guardians of the galaxy. "Approaching the outer boundary of the Cygnus Arm," reported her navigation officer, "all systems operating at optimal capacity." The Sentinel was unlike any ship built before it. Using technologies developed by multiple species and refined by centuries of innovation, it could travel between galaxies, cloak itself from detection, and deploy weapons capable of disabling even the largest harvester vessels. Natalie nodded, brushing a strand of blonde hair from her face. At 35, she was young for a Vanguard commander, but her tactical brilliance had earned her this assignment. The Vanguard fleet now counted over 1,000 ships, crewed by humans and allied species, all dedicated to protecting developing civilizations. "Long-range sensors are detecting unusual energy patterns," her science officer reported. "Similar to harvester signatures, but with variations we haven't seen before." "Origin?" Natalie asked calmly. "Andromeda Galaxy. They're moving faster than our models predicted." This was what they had been watching for. 2 centuries earlier, the Council had detected signs of another harvester species moving through Andromeda. Now they appeared to be heading toward the Milky Way. "Alert Vanguard Command," Natalie ordered, "and plot a course to intercept. I want to observe them before they detect us." The Sentinel shifted course, its advanced engines propelling it through space at speeds that would have seemed impossible to early human explorers. Within days, they'd reached the projected path of the incoming harvesters. "There," the science officer said, highlighting a region of space on the display. 15 vessels, configuration unknown. They're following a direct course toward the Arcturus system. Natalie frowned. Arcturus has a developing civilization, pre-spaceflight technology. They would have no defense. The Arcturus species had been under discreet Vanguard observation for decades. They were bipedal, curious, and just beginning to explore their own solar system, much like humans had been when the Vordari scout crashed on Earth. "Prepare for first contact with Arcturus," Natalie decided, "and ready the warning package for the harvesters." First contact was a delicate procedure, governed by strict protocols established by the Council. The Sentinel dispatched a stealth scout vessel to the Arcturus homeworld, making contact with their scientific leaders without causing widespread panic. Meanwhile, Natalie prepared the message for the approaching harvesters. Unlike the collectors who had refused communication, intelligence suggested these new harvesters might be reasoned with. "The package is ready for transmission," reported her communications officer. "Full diplomatic credentials, historical records of the collector war, and the formal warning." Natalie reviewed the message one last time. It contained carefully selected information about humanity's defeat of the Collectors, the formation of the Council of Free Species, and the Vanguard Initiative. Most importantly, it included the pledge that had become the Vanguard's core principle. We are the shield for those who cannot defend themselves. We are the guardians of life's diversity. We are the eternal vanguard. All species have the right to develop without predation. This region of space is protected. Attempts to harvest developing civilizations will be met with immediate defensive action. Transmit, she ordered. The message sped across the void between galaxies, encoded in formats that any advanced species would understand. Natalie watched the screens, waiting for a response. Her crew remained at battle stations, ready if the warning was ignored. Hours passed. Then the sensors registered movement from the Harvester fleet. "They're changing course," the science officer reported with surprise. "Moving away from the Milky Way entirely." A message arrived in response. Brief but clear. "Territory acknowledged. Alternative harvesting routes will be established." Natalie allowed herself a small smile. Humanity's reputation had spread beyond the Milky Way. The species that had once been nearly harvested to extinction had become the most feared defenders in the known universe. On the Arcturus homeworld, the newly contacted civilization looked to the stars with new understanding. They were not alone, and thanks to humanity's eternal vanguard, they would never face extinction from the harvesters. "Set course for home," Natalie ordered, "and update the council. The vanguard stands firm." The ancient meeting hall of the Galactic Council fell silent as the hooded figure stepped to the center of the chamber. 500 years had passed since the formation of the eternal vanguard. Humanity's legacy had spread across multiple galaxies, and their reputation as defenders had prevented countless harvester incursions. Admiral Gregory Wells removed his hood, revealing a face marked by both age and wisdom. At 70, he was the longest-serving commander in Vanguard history, and today would be his final address to the now massive Council of Free Species. "Honored representatives," he began, his voice carrying through the chamber without technological assistance, "I stand before you on the anniversary of our greatest achievement and our darkest memory." The chamber, with representatives from over 200 species, listened intently. Many present were descendants of civilizations that would have been harvested if not for the Vanguard's protection. 5 centuries ago, humanity faced extinction. Today, we celebrate not just our survival, but the preservation of 53 developing civilizations that now take their places among us. Gregory gestured to the newest council members, representatives from species that had grown from primitive technologies to spacefaring societies under the Vanguard's watchful protection. "But we face a new challenge," he continued, "one that requires us to evolve beyond being simply guardians." Holographic displays activated around the chamber, showing strange energy patterns at the edge of the known universe. Unlike anything encountered before, these disturbances defied conventional analysis. 3 months ago, our deep space observatories detected these anomalies. They're not harvesters. They're not natural phenomena. They appear to be tears in the fabric of space itself. Murmurs spread through the chamber. Even with centuries of advanced science, such phenomena remained beyond understanding. Our scientists believe these tears are entrances from another reality, perhaps another universe entirely, and something is coming through. The displays shifted to show shadowy forms moving within the tears, entities of pure energy with no physical form that human or alien senses could comprehend. "We face a threat unlike any before," Gregory said. "Not harvesters seeking resources or genetic material, but beings that exist in ways we cannot fully understand. Their motives are unknown, but their effect on nearby star systems has been devastating." The displays showed dead stars, worlds reduced to basic particles, and space itself warped beyond recognition. The Vanguard was created to defend developing civilizations against harvesters we understood. Now we must become something more. Explorers of the unknown, bridging the gap between realities. Gregory revealed the final part of his presentation. Designs for a new class of ship, unlike anything built before. Not weapons platforms or defensive systems, but vessels designed to travel through the tiers, to study and potentially communicate with whatever waited beyond. I propose the creation of the Pathfinder Initiative, he announced. While the Vanguard continues its protective mission, the Pathfinders will reach into the unknown. For too long, we have defined ourselves by what we stand against. Now we must also define ourselves by what we seek to understand. Many council members appeared uncertain. After centuries of defending against known threats, facing the truly unknown seemed frightening. But the human representatives nodded in understanding. Exploration had always been part of their nature, alongside protection. I will not lead this initiative, Gregory continued. My time of service ends today. But I nominate Commander Eliza Chen to guide this new chapter in our shared history. A young woman stood from among the human delegation. At 32, Eliza represented a new generation born among the stars, never having seen Earth except in historical records. The universe is larger and stranger than we ever imagined, Gregory concluded. We began as a species fighting extinction. We continued as guardians protecting others from the same fate. Now we must evolve again, becoming explorers of the infinite, reaching beyond the boundaries of known reality. The council chamber erupted in discussion, but the outcome was never truly in doubt. Humanity's journey had come full circle, from a species that received a warning, to one that gave warnings, and now to one that sought understanding beyond fear. As Gregory stepped back from the central platform, he saw the first volunteers already gathering around Eliza. The Eternal Vanguard would continue its protective mission, but the Pathfinders would carry humanity's courage and curiosity into realms no species had ever explored. The next great adventure was beginning.